Hey there, my fellow ranchers. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Songs of Syx, Episode 9, Adding Eggs 2. Oh, you know what? They might not be able to clear this in time. We'll see. I just realized filling the shoreline takes a bit of effort. But I can furlough more carpenters, so I have more hands doing it. I have plenty of leather and plenty of meat now over here. I'm going to add a few tailors. See if we can't get some more clothing circulated. So what is access to clothing? It, on average, is actually up. I think we were at 0.49 last time I checked, and now we're at 0.85. We're aiming for 2. So it's trending. It's trending. I mean, you can see the bar graphs there. It's getting better, and the tailors that I just allocated in here should make a big dent in that deficit. Alright, I think all of our city's vegetables are all waiting to go to this field. This field needs 37. We have 18 in storage. 18 in storage plus the what we'll forage this year is easily enough to get this first field going this year. Which is good. Yep, and they're going to have the field done by summer. One thing I really like about this game is, I mean, I like a lot about this game, but because of the agriculture being seasonal, planning around harvest time. There's not a lot of games where that is the case. And games that do have that, like let's say RimWorld, it's not really applicable if you live somewhere super temperate anyway, because you just grow year round. A lot of games don't have the sort of seasonal work where you have to consider town projects around harvest season. And that becomes less relevant as you become a metropolis here too. But early game, it's very much a factor. That's the roundness this adds. Oh, actually, this adds a lot of roundness. Never mind. Yeah. No problem. I was worried that because of the flat edges, but the game considers that kind of like rounded because it's small. Cool. What are the average odd jobber doing? Oh, they're fetching. Okay, I'm going to leave them. There's lots of like wood and stone to be hauled away. In fact, our stockpiles are literally full of stone. Now that I have a place for clothing and fabric, I'm going to allocate more space for stone. So this is increasingly becoming a stone warehouse. But once we start doing masonry, then there'll be a dedicated stone warehouse. So this is just like overflow. Animals are almost topped up at 19. Just checking in on clothing access. No, some of our clothing wore out. We're not keeping up with demand just yet. The hearth and the well down here got built. Now that I've added a whole bunch of infrastructure, how is maintenance? I think it's time to add in that second janitor. Degradation doesn't look particularly bad, but having a second janitor is going to keep it from getting bad. And we are out of bread, so getting another baker in. What does consumption look like? I need to add... What were we at? We were at 18, so I need to get up to like 26 or so for bread to be in the net positive. No, 24. Okay. Should be okay. I was just keeping an eye on our food available. This doesn't paint a full picture because of the grain that we have in storage. Alright. It is forage time. So now that it's forage time, who can I furlough? The other issue is fetching. So now that I have dedicated storages for vegetables, dedicated storage for fruit, and dedicated storage for grain, it makes less sense to have fruit, vegetables, and grain in the general storage, only to have to move it. So it makes more sense for the fruit, vegetable, and grain warehouses to have a full-time employee that moves the foraged stuff into there. And then once I have a fully functioning fruit orchard and vegetable farm, to stop bothering to forage the fruit and veggies and grain. I don't need to really stop foraging the grain because it's in my own backyard and it's not inconvenient to get to and forage for. But the other stuff, because it's so far away, at some point it will make sense not to bother with it, because it's really time inefficient to do. The mushrooms are still pretty time efficient because it's close enough that it's not a big hassle. But the stuff down here is, it takes a whole season for our odd jobbers to do, and we're working towards not ever having to do that again. I would actually go so far as to say maybe it makes sense to stop fruit foraging as we're producing our own fruit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to delete job. And the same is true of cloth. We're not farming it yet, but we have a massive amount of it in storage, and it does not decay very quickly. It's 5% per year, and we have 263 of it, so I probably don't need to do cotton. And if we ever need to again, that feels out there. It's not going anywhere. Alright, so we are all foraged. And I'm going to leave the odd jobbers. The odd jobbers will help to haul stuff that needs hauling. And as you can see, they are stocking the first vegetable farm now and getting that built. And then if I have roughly like 40 vegetables left over, I'll start a second field. I mean, why not? We probably will have it, I'd imagine, given that we're not allowed to eat it at the moment. So we have 20 in there. How much is down here? 8, 14. Yeah, okay. We'll do 2 veggie farms right now, because we can afford it. So next year is going to be pretty tasty. How large is this? Come on, fully build. $369? Okay. So my next field, I'm going to aim to be roughly a 369. 366? That'll work. So there's the veggie fields that y'all voted on. We're getting both this year. It's pretty good. The trees are still a little while away in order to be fully ready to be harvested. So I think what I'm going to do until the fruit orchards are good to go is just focus on agrarian goals, because that will allow me to then snowball into science and knowledge and all that. So what to build next is going to be additional fruit orchards, Globian pasture, more vegetable farms, more grain farms, or the additional agrarian homes. I do have a lot of free housing as it is now, so the agrarian homes is not a high priority. But once we add more, once we fill in the grain farms and the vegetable farms and the fruit orchards, obviously there will be a need. And a reminder: the Globians are lizards that produce egg. So here's one. It produces meat and egg. And it's just a new food source, because we don't have egg. Cretonians don't love eggs, but like they'll eat them. So I think I am going to delete the jobs of foraging up the vegetables now. This wild grain. So there's nothing we forage from the far southeast anymore. We're just foraging the mushrooms and the wild grain that are close to the base. And because the grain or the mushrooms aren't that far away from our warehouses, I'm going to run a road out that way too. I wouldn't do it for the other stuff because it's too far away, but yeah, might as well have a path out to the mushrooms. Adding some harmony and a bench or two. Very easy to forget. Very important to include for overall happiness. Plus there's because of how wide the path is back here, it's also possible to do some harmony trees in this area as well. So I'm gonna oh, is this deep water? Oh yeah, this is deep water, never mind. Well, I could have it be open ponds. That looks nice too. Maybe we'll have it look intentional. Okay, the second vegetable farm is done, and we will be doing Globian pastures next. I'll probably plop it right next to the Auroch one. I mean, why not? How big was this Auroch one? was 26 wide. I don't think they can share fences, though. Maybe I'll space it out so that there's space in between for a road, too. So, I'll build said road. And then drop the pasture in there. And this is a huge timber requiring project, but we have plenty stockpiled, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. All right. Are there odd jobbers I can furlough? I'm going to fire 2 of my tailors. So the reason I'm doing, or maybe 1 tailor, I'm trying to match leather production with leather consumption, because if not, we're going to have a workload mismatch. So I'm only making about 4.6 leather per day. And my 3 tailors are using 4.7. That's close enough that that works. And that produces clothing. And I think at this point we have a net surplus of clothing, indicating that we're providing clothing for everyone that wants it, which is a pretty good target. And not always that easy to match. So taking a look at access. Clothing is trending upwards. They don't immediately wear it. It's not like the tailors finish and people just throw it on. They have to go to the market and shop for it in their leisure time, etc., etc. But that is positive progress. And then we will want some little warehouse for the eggs. And I was thinking of trying to use the void space in here for it. I also haven't checked, I haven't looked at the noise map in a while. Maybe I could do this better. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's look at noise map. Make sure that the houses... Yeah, so the pasture is not producing noise, despite the fact that you'd imagine livestock as pretty noisy. So this house is still quiet, just barely. Oh, no, this is the janitor, so that doesn't even matter. Yeah, the houses are still quiet. That's good. And these houses are quiet as well. Good. No noise complaints. Years ago, I lived above a fitness center, and when I moved in, beneath my bedroom was like yoga mats and yoga balls. And then, like, after 6 months of living in there, the landlord decided that the room beneath me would go from yoga to treadmills. And that sucked. So, like, the amount of noise that, like, people running on a treadmill makes, pretty noticeable from, like, a yoga mat. And, so I fully understand the desire for quiet, because there was so much more wrong with that living arrangement. The other one was the landlord only allocated 2 parking spots for the apartment, but there were 3 tenants, and I drew short straw, or rather, I was bullied into short straw, and the net result of that is I had to like rent a parking spot from the adjacent hardware store, but the adjacent hardware store wanted me to vacate that parking spot during the winter at like 6 in the morning, which then I had to move my car to street parking because there was a parking ban because I was in Maine, so you couldn't park out on the streets year-round because of snow. So every morning at like 4 in the morning, I would be woken up to loud people running on treadmills and then have to move my car in the freezing rain and snow to street parking at like 6 in the morning. And it got even worse because the hardware store was like a metal sheeting with no gutter. So rain would run off where I was allowed to park onto my car. And on some mornings, that rain just froze. So like I remember one time, I had to go and talk to the hardware store owner and be like, I can't move my car today. I can't move my car at all. It was just fully encased in ice. Like, I was like, there's just no amount of boiling water that's going to allow me to get into my car today. Like, it's not happening. Like, I'm sorry, but unless you give me better parking, I can't move my car. And he took a look at it, and it was an ice cube. And he even apologized to me, and I was like, yeah, this sucks. And I tried to talk to the town to get like a waiver for a parking spot to use street parking, but I couldn't. It sucked, so I moved out as soon as I could because it was just a horrible situation all around. It was a year of misery. Oh, someone died of old age. My population was 60, it's now 59. So, let's make a mass grave. I'm gonna put the mass grave here. Kind of arbitrary. Like halfway between the mushroom farm and where I live. Yeah, out near the mushrooms, exactly. So our pasture is almost at maximum population. Glubdian pasture's getting there. The second vegetable farm is done. I'm going to fire one of the farmers because they don't need 4 for a space that small. I could turn one of the islands into a mass grave. It's probably going to eventually be a fishery, like these islands. So I don't really want to like bury people. Oh, if you mean over here, that's like premium farming spots. Because the fertility on those islands are amazing, as you can see. So I wouldn't really want to bury people there. Because that's our food soil. And if you're wondering, the way these graves work is graves will turn over the course of like a year or two. So you don't... A late game empire isn't a giant thing of mass graves. There's also more efficient ways to bury people, like in crypts, that you unlock later on. Crypts and graveyards. Wouldn't it be better with corpse fertilizer? That there is no such thing. You can cannibalize the dead, but Cretonians don't like that, so I'm not gonna be doing it. I'll just be burying people out here in the mass graves instead. We don't have a lot of odd jobbers though, so I think what I'll do is I'm gonna admit 11 new people, bolstering our population. We're just 5 short of the Prontix. The Prontix title. But I'm generally very careful about admitting too many people at once. There's also a knee-jerk reaction as well. There's a little bit of like baked-in nativism where the immigrants is disliked by my plebeians. So if you have a massive amount of population turnover, like if there's a mass exodus of plebeians because of, let's say, a food shortage, and then you bring in a bunch of immigrants because you fix the happiness and you have a huge population turnover, it causes some turmoil. So it's best to make sure not to admit like a massive amount of immigrants. Because if you have like a very happy and very loyal population, like let's say your population is like roughly 600, and there's like 300 people that want to be immigrants, letting those 300 people in all at once is gonna cause some sort of nativism sentiments. So you gotta let them trickle in. And there is this auto feature where you can allow where is it? You can allow automatically a certain number of immigrants in where you don't have to control it, which is useful later on when it becomes labor intensive to micromanage it. I would just rather play slow and thoughtfully and make sure my food allotments are correct. Which, speaking of which, means I'm gonna ramp up my bakery. Now, in terms of bang for your buck, fruit orchards, especially if you're Cretonian like I am, is like the easiest, the least labor intensive for the most amount of food, but it takes a while for those trees to mature. So if I really wanted to have a massive population with a minimum amount of farmers, I would just have a bunch of fruit orchards. It's just not how I like to do it for role-playing reasons. All right, here's our mass grave. And as you can see, available services 69 out of 70. Oh, yep, that's the person that died. Yeah, as you can see, death cause aging. They just got too old. They didn't get mauled or anything. I haven't had any like no one died from unnatural causes. And then they'll be essentially thrown into the mass grave, and after a few years, they're like essentially forgotten, and I can fill the space again. There they are. Your lives. Oh, I don't even know your name anymore. I don't think I can tell. But if you're wondering, people do not like to be buried in mass graves. So one of the ways to keep your people happy is to research something better. You know, like a graveyard pretty early on. But I don't have any research, so mass graves it is. That, and we're so early on that keeping people happy is very easy. They don't ask for much. I'm going to see if I can get by with no one working in the warehouses. And see what that looks like. If I start to see things pile up in the fields, I'll know that I'll need dedicated haulers. But generally, as long as you have storage adjacent to the workplaces, the people who work in the workplaces will just like move the stuff. So it's often not something that you need dedicated haulers for. And I'm reactivating the woodcutter. Yeah, the noise from the woodcutter is not an issue. Cool. Wow, even with 6 bakers, I don't think we're keeping up with consumption. So, 7 it is. Now, at 7 bakeries, we are in a net grain negative. We can make up some of that net negative with foraging the wild grains that we live next to, but it's worth noting that this is not long-term sustainable. But I don't think it will matter because this year will be the first year we'll have vegetable yield. So people will vary their diets more towards vegetables and less to just solely grain. Because there's not a lot of people eating the meat. And we're net positive in meat. Are we allowed meat? Yeah, we are. it's not a food preference, so it just sits there as long as there's better other food available. Which is also why throughout the winter, the bread basically went to 0, which is kind of a good thing because it means it isn't spoiling, while the mushrooms and the meat just sat there because nobody wants it. How's maintenance looking? So there's some of the western vegetable farm that is relatively unmaintained. But apart from that, it's flawless. Well, that's not true. We have some unmaintained towards the mushroom farm too. Degraded roads aren't a big deal though, right? Because it's a dirt path. So I don't think it makes sense to have like 2 more dedicated janitors for those 2 spots at the moment. But yeah, as you can see, it matches up perfectly. The farm janitor just can't get out there. You did expect to be worse? Yeah. It's not bad. Where'd all my workers go? What got built just now where all of my odd jobbers are... Oh, the Cretonian Pasture. Ah, yes. So Cretonian Pasture is done. It's, I'm going to cap both... I guess both at 8. That's what they say they require. So now we have 2 odd jobbers. Cool. Cretonian Pasture done. And that's going to offer an income of meat and eggs. Now, I did mention that the goal of this is to be self-reliant. Self-reliant doesn't necessarily mean not exporting meat or eggs. It's entirely possible for us to obtain like a trade agreement once we have access to trade with our neighbors and export said meat and eggs to them. So here on the Agrarian, it does allow us to get an export and import depot. So we could be doing that. I don't really think I'm going to be doing that right now because the benefit, the profit off of whatever excess meat or eggs we're producing that we're not consuming is pretty low. And also, meat and eggs are both food sources, and exporting our food when we're not super food secure is kind of a dumb idea. Like, I'd rather keep it in-house. Even if we're not eating it, it helps to keep us from starving. But, there's a mass run on bread, is all I'm going to say. I'm actually not going to spin up more bakers. Alright, trees are still not going to be producing anything for 33 more days. What to build next? Additional farms of some sort, or agrarian homes. And this is going to be, until our fruit orchard is really up and running, or until we're making a lot more food than we're currently consuming, it's just focus on food. So I know I'm limiting your options here. It's like, you can choose whatever you want as long as it's food focused. I know, but it's because we have 6 months of food in stock right now. It's not enough. So that's why you can choose as whatever you want, provided that it's about food. All right. I also have a lot of furniture in stockpile right now, so I'm going to use my furniture to upgrade the general warehouses. So 29 of my 47 furniture is going to be used to upgrade this warehouse, and now this warehouse can store a lot more stuff. Oh, you want to give me swords and gold? I'm going to decline. You're going to like me more, but I'm going to decline. So that was yellow. So now if we take a look at yellow, they like me a little bit more because I declined their gifts. They're going to be asking for things too. So this warehouse, now has some open crates for stuff. There. let's take a look at how they're feeling. Population. Clothing is going up. We're at 1.23, up from like 0.89 last time I checked. So clothing access is improving. We will allow for eating of vegetables. And the first harvest of vegetables will be this year. Speaking of which, yeah, they're allowed in my food stalls. Okay. Services. Food stalls are good as they can be, as are wells, as are markets, more or less, as are lavatories. So why this is at like 50% is because they're not the upgraded versions, but the upgraded versions require science. So if I wanted to upgrade my lavatories, I would need the tech posh relief. If I wanted to upgrade my my wells, I would need bathing. If I wanted to upgrade my hearths, I would need fancy hearth. So that's why the services for these things look bad at 50-ish%. That's just because they're not the upgraded versions. If they were the upgraded versions, that 50-ish% would be like 98, 99, which is pretty damn perfect. That's why my speakers, which have no upgraded version, is sitting at like 97 to 98% fulfilled. Environment. Benches are almost 100%. Corpses are basically 0. Swimming is fine. Row preference is as high as it's going to get. Roundness is really good. Harmony could be a little bit better. So, while we're, I'm going to be adding additional grain fields, but while I do that, or right before I do that, let's do a little harmony. So here's the harmony map. I mean, it's pretty harmonious. I don't see a ton of room for improvement. I'll put it like a big tree here. Maybe small trees. And anyone walking north to south on this road will get a lovely, lovely trees to view. I'll do the same thing over here. We have so much wood, and trees regrow fast enough that, like, this isn't a big deal. It does add a little bit of, janitor maintenance, but, like, not so much that it's, problematic. Okay, so that's the harmony. Thank you for tuning in to Songs of Syx, which originally streamed live on Twitch as a marathon November 23rd. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind I'm not looking for feedback. This episode was cut from a marathon, and the marathon was streamed one time only, so feedback cannot be incorporated. If you would like to join a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. And if you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. A link to my Patreon page can be found there as well, if that interests you. Thank you so very much for watching. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream of another game. Farewell, my fellow Cretonians.